Funding for Off 90 is provided in part by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.
Cruising your way on this episode of Off 90. Young fashion designer and Mankato native Elena Mercurio is sewing her way to the top. Watch as she creates beautiful garments inspired by architecture. Rochester's Renee Nation crafts stunning felted sculptures using her kitchen as an art studio. And explore one of the largest tractor exhibitions in the entire country, Red Power Roundup in Albert Lea. It's all just ahead, Off 90. Hi, I'm Barbara Keith. Thanks for joining me on this episode of Off 90. Mankato native Elena Mercurio is fresh out of fashion school and just beginning to break into the exciting world of fashion design. She loves combining unique fabrics and bases many of her designs on architecture. Even though the world of fashion is highly competitive, Elena is making her voice heard through her innovative designs, focused on creating wearable and fashion-forward looks for confident, edgy women.
So this collection is my Fall/Winter 2011 collection. I am just doing the finishing touches on everything. Cool, okay, you're good. So I fitted all the models before I hemmed everything and put in the zippers. Does that feel okay? Are all the Hillary's models upstairs now? Where's Crystal? When I'm actually watching my designs in a fashion show, I'm probably the most critical about my stuff. I think everyone looks good. Everybody make sure like there's no strings and things. Okay. It's always after when I see the photos that it's like, oh yeah, that did look really cool. And while you girls are like up on stage, you can like keep switching your poses and stuff. You're still like working it. I love experimenting. I'm still a young designer, so I love incorporating different unusual fabrics together. So mixing textures and prints and just create something really cool. Yeah, just work it. Everybody's gonna be beautiful. You're the hottest girls in the show. So it's so fun to have an art piece that you get to wear and show off to everyone instead of just having it hang on a wall or in a gallery or something. I'm Elena Mercurio, and I'm a fashion designer. I grew up in Mankato, Minnesota. At 11 years old, I kind of knew I wanted to be a fashion designer and have not stopped ever since. A lot of my inspiration really comes from a lot of structure. I find that just the most exciting, to try and take the flat piece of fabric and make it strong and structured. A lot of architecture is really inspiring to me. Making innovative and trend-setting pieces that nobody's seen before is just exciting. When I see my clothing being worn by others, I kind of want them to turn heads. My process of each design, each season, I first of all find an inspiration that I really want to go off of for the season. And I really research that pretty extensively and just start sketching. Sketching, and then thinking of the customer. And she'll probably want a top with this bottom and She wants maybe a couple more dresses probably to see in this collection. And so I added into something that, okay, this looks like a good season of outfits that someone would want to wear. After I design all my pieces, then I take the muslin, which you start out with. It's just kind of a nice draping fabric. This is how I start all my pieces. And then I have to make the patterns from that, and then I go shopping. Oh, this is really cool. Oh, this is a cool print. It's kind of cool too. I definitely am drawn towards the abstract. We'll sit there for hours and hours trying to find the right pieces, but it's, you know, getting that right fabric that I really want is something that's really important to me. If you do it in one fabric, it could look totally different from a different piece. Yeah, I always look for something just a little bit different that catches my eye, and then taking the fabric home and making the pieces come to life. When I'm working on a piece, I'm really focused on how the end product will look. I really am focusing on the collection as a whole too. That's not over-designed, you know, that it is something someone would want to wear on a daily basis. I really think that working with people is something that is really beautiful. It's like the most beautiful art form. Yeah, it is very much alive, and it's a moving art piece that everybody gets to show off. I really want to strive to influence people's lives, and especially women. I want to make strong, beautiful, confident women. That is the most exciting part, is when you see it live and walking on a model. Yeah, it's just a really thrilling feeling. All that hard work, and then you get to see it kind of displayed there. It's just a really exciting time, and yeah, it was a really cool experience. I love fashion design because you see it every day. You see fashion all around, and the inspiration for it is all around all the time. I'm constantly getting inspired by different things and just want to keep creating. And I really can't see myself doing anything else that I would love more. You know, so for my future in design, I just want to get my work out there for people to see and people to be excited about. I think fashion design is important because if you put on something that really makes you feel great, you're just going to exude that feeling towards the rest of your day, and you know, it's going to help you be a successful person and a happy person and live a great life.
Renee Nation never considered herself an artist until the day she tried felting, which is the art of taking natural wool fibers and bonding them together to form a sturdy cloth. Renee doesn't work out of an art studio. She uses her kitchen, but what she creates is truly spectacular.
Felt is thought to be the first fabric man ever made. The nomadic people would have taken the wool from the sheep and used it perhaps in their shoes or as shoes, and as they wore the wool against their body, it would have turned into felt. Most people have not heard of felting, or if they have heard of felting, they associate it with knitting and then felting the object that you've knit. This kind of felting, you make the object as you make the fabric, rather than making the object first. I'm Renee Nation, and I'm a felt maker. It's not obvious from just looking at a piece how it's constructed, how the wool came together. And so many people are curious about that. For a vessel, I would take an inflatable ball. I stole an inflatable ball from my kids. And I would layer the wool around the ball. Sometimes I give the wool a little help by wrapping string around. And that way it doesn't slide around while I do the next layer. We finished with green, and we're going to do the center layer of wool. I'm going to use yellow. Yellow really makes the outer layer glow because the fibers will migrate outward and brighten up the outer layer. And this is the layer that I have to be the most careful about getting a complete coverage of the underside. What I sometimes do is add silk or yarns or other things to the outside to give it some interest. I like sparkle. The other thing I'm going to do is use some silk. And I'm not too particular about how it falls. I just don't want it too thick in any one spot. Silk is like the sparkly stuff. It won't felt itself, but the wool will wrap around it and keep it in place. All right, so now we start the next part of the process, which is the wet part of the process. But before we can get the wool wet, we need to cover it so that it will stay tight against the ball. Otherwise, the gravity will just yank it off the ball and I won't have a vessel. What most people use to wrap the wool with when they're making a vessel on an inflatable ball is pantyhose. Now that we've got the ball wrapped, we're ready to start the wet felting process. And we need some hot water and soap to do that. There, that's enough to start. And now I'm ready to wet down my vessel. The agitation of rubbing the ball in the water and the soap causes the fibers to migrate together, and they get tangled up and they form a solid fabric. There we go. I love it because I like seeing the final product. I like to experiment, and you never know exactly what it's going to look like when you start. You can layer the wool with silk and yarns, and it doesn't turn out in the end what you're thinking it looks like at the beginning. So I like the process of being surprised at the end.
One of the most storied names in tractor history is International Harvester. With roots that date back to the 19th century, this company produced some of the most popular agricultural products until it sold off its agricultural division in the 1980s. But the name lives on in one of the biggest annual tractor shows in the entire country, Red Power Roundup, which this year was held in Albert Lea.
This is Albert Lea, Minnesota. This is the 22nd annual National Red Power Roundup. It is a gathering of unproportional size. I've created a monster.
Come on!
But we're having fun.
I'm an ex-MP. Back when Harry Truman put me to work. Pull it a little bit more. Hey!
People from all over the U.S., the world, come to this every year to visit with friends and to show their collector tractors. I have 6 collector tractors. I'm contributing a Cub Cadet that's pulling the little kids around here. We want the whole family involved in this. You know, this is a friendly bunch of people, and we just love this. It's the tractor that they grew up on. You know, Dad said, okay, son, I want you to learn how to drive this tractor. And it was usually the Farmall H or the Farmall M. My dad took me out when I was 4 years old, east of Geneva, Minnesota, to the Hendrickson brothers. I remember it. They had a plow on it. And down the field we went. And I put my hands on the steering wheel. I couldn't touch the pedals. I was too small. But I felt that vibration of that tractor, and it hooked me. You just wiggle, that's what happens. You know, it's in your blood. You grow up on it. It's there all the time.
It's a 58-year-old tractor that runs like the new one. This side would be the clutch pedal. Brakes are on the other side, individual for each back wheel. 5 speeds forward, 1 reverse. Driving a tractor's always been one thing I liked. As a little kid, I liked to have my dad give me permission to drive tractor and do some operations in the field. My dad used to say this is a tractor you could always depend on. Snow or blizzard or cold weather or anything, you could always depend on this one.
I've been playing with these tractors for probably 20 years. Started out, I've got about 45 tractors at the house. I believe I probably only ever drove one on the trailer. Everything else has been stock or, you know, what we need. See how it's stuck open?
Yeah?
It's not stuck in that. There. Now Drake can turn it over.
I think we should save a bit of history for the next generation so that they know how it used to be. I guess that's means a lot to me, including my tractors at home.
Oh, here we go, Junior. He got 10,000. $10,000 amount, 8, going to get $10,000 time. $8,000 amount, 10 go now. He got $9,000. $9,000 amount, time is now. 9 is bid, going to get $10,000 now. 13, 1,300. 17,500, and now 7 now. 1,000 now. 7,300 now. Why don't you give me 19,000? We'll get this deal over with. 19,000, 19,000, 19,000, 19,000. 1 to 18, 7, 15. I have. You want to do it? It's a beautiful tractor, and I have sold it. Jump right here. 18,500. Put on 197. Congratulations. Where's it headed, Dave? Harlan, Wisconsin. Our good neighbors here, Wisconsin. Thank you, sir.
What is it about new paint that makes people feel good?
It looks pretty. You can see yourself, it's shiny new. It looks great. With my sweetheart that I love so.
Gets my heart pumping. Keeps me young. So I don't need to go to a psychiatrist because I just love International Harvester. I didn't grow up on it on the farm, but I got into it because my wife, her grandpa and her father had IH tractors or farmalls on their farm, and they used them.
I'm Mary Stanek, and I'm here with my sister and her husband and my husband, and we're interested in International Harvester things because my father-in-law was a dealer years ago.
And you brought your checkbook.
And I brought my checkbook.
Oh, we might buy some toys. Sometimes I want some parts of some kind, you know.
I just like to get out and do this kind of stuff, look around and everything.
They come to these swap meet down there. If they need a part for a tractor, they'll buy the part here because they can't get it any other place, you know. 1 in a million chance that might be here.
This is pretty unusual. It's a McCormick Deering electric motor. Most people don't know there was such a thing.
What were you actually feeling for when you...
Actually, I was touching the drawbar. And like I say, I bought a new one from the dealership for $250 last week, and here I could have bought one at probably a fraction of the cost and hauled it home 500 miles.
That's all for this episode. See you next time, Off 90.
Funding for Off 90 is provided in part by the Minnesota Arts and Cultural Heritage Fund and the citizens of Minnesota.